Have you ever noticed how often you're told you should be happy? It's subtle at first, like background music you barely notice on the bill books, on every smiling face you see online, but it's there constantly. A quiet, unspoken command. Happiness is your duty, your proof of success, your place in the world. And if you're not happy, then something is wrong with you. This, my friend, is the great deception. Society has taken something fragile, fleeting, and beautiful and turned it into a measurement of your worth. And here's the twist. The moment happiness became an obligation, it stopped being happiness at all. I've seen it over and over in the cities, in the small towns, in young people chasing careers, in older men chasing dreams they lost years ago. Everyone running, not because they're unhappy, but because they believe happiness is a place they must arrive at and stay. And let me tell you this, that belief is poison. Social media feeds, self-help gurus, billion-dollar industries, they all profit from it. They sell you curated joy, perfect kitchens, perfect vacations, perfect lives. And every time you scroll, every time you compare, you feel just a little more incomplete. You think, why not me? What am I doing wrong? But the truth is, you're doing nothing wrong because happiness was never meant to be permanent. Think about it. Do you breathe in and hold your breath forever? No. You inhale, you exhale. Emotions are the same. Joy visits, so does sadness, so does longing. And when you try to lock one emotion in place, you start to suffocate. But society doesn't want you to see that, because the moment you realize happiness can't be bought or held onto, you stop being a customer. Stay with me, because we're only just touching the surface. And if you've ever felt like the endless chase for happiness was exhausting you, then you need to hear this next part. If this resonates, subscribe. Because what we're about to explore will not just change how you see happiness, it will change how you see life itself. When I was younger, I met a man named Elias. He was a traveler, not the kind that moves from one country to another, but the kind that moves restlessly from one version of himself to the next. Every time I saw him, he was chasing something new, a different job, a new romance, a life-changing book. Each time, he believed it would finally make him happy. One day I asked him, Elias, how will you know when you're truly happy? He paused, then smiled in a way that was both hopeful and deeply uncertain. I'll just know, he said. But he never did, because what he was chasing wasn't happiness. He was chasing the idea of happiness, sold to him by the world around him. This isn't just his story, it's ours. From ancient times, wisdom traditions have been trying to tell us something different. Christianity never promised constant joy. It promised peace in the storm. Buddhism didn't speak of happiness as an eternal state. It spoke of suffering as the reality of life and detachment as the path to freedom. Even in Islam, the Quran speaks of life as a test, moments of joy and moments of trial, both designed to shape the soul. Yet here we are, surrounded by a culture that treats happiness like a permanent condition. How did we get here? It began with a simple, dangerous shift. Happiness stopped being an experience and became a product. Look closely. Everywhere, there are subtle messages. This app will bring peace of mind. This retreat will change your life. This gratitude journal will unlock your joy. And when you try them, maybe for a moment you feel something. A lift, a spark. And then it fades. Because that's what emotions do. And in the silence after, you wonder, did I do it wrong? Why didn't it last? That question is exactly what keeps the industry alive. You feel incomplete, so you buy again, you scroll again, you chase again. This isn't accidental. It's the engine of the happiness industry, an endless loop of promise, purchase, and disappointment. And while all this happens, something subtle begins to grow inside of us. Shame. Because if everyone else looks happy, if the posts are all smiles, if every podcast tells you joy is just one mindset away, then you must be the problem. You must be broken. But you're not. You are human. And humans are not built for constant joy. Kierkegaard said that despair is the sickness of the soul when we live for ideals that are not our own. That is what the happiness industry has done. It has sold us a script that doesn't belong to us, and we're acting it out every single day. And when despair comes, when sadness or anxiety visits, we treat it like failure. We rush to silence it. Distraction, consumption, forced positivity, anything but sitting with it. But every spiritual tradition says the same thing in its own language. Do not run from the storm. Move through it. The Bible speaks of walking through the valley of the shadow of death, not avoiding it. Buddhist texts speak of sitting with suffering until you understand its nature. The Sufi poets in Islam speak of longing, heartbreak, and loss, not as curses, but as pathways to God. Elias never learned this. He lived in pursuit, and that pursuit consumed him. Most of us are Elias in some way. Maybe our happiness is a dream job, or a relationship, or that perfect version of ourselves we've been told we must become. And every time we fall short, we blame ourselves instead of questioning the script. But what if the script itself is the lie? What if happiness was never meant to be a constant? Think of it like the ocean. Calm waters are beautiful, but so are the waves. So are the storms. The ocean isn't broken because it's not calm all the time. It is alive, and so are you. The obsession with constant happiness has stolen something from us. It has made sadness shameful. It has made doubt dangerous. It has made grief invisible. But here's the irony. The moments we try to hide, the heartbreaks, the questions, the nights we feel lost, those are the moments that shape us the most. Without them, happiness would be meaningless. Without the valley, the mountaintop is just another patch of ground. This is the truth ancient philosophers knew. This is the truth our modern world has forgotten. And if you've stayed with me this far, you know we've reached a turning point. Because the real question is, if happiness isn't constant and the chase is the trap, then what is the alternative? That answer is where everything changes. Elias never stopped chasing, and I wish I could tell you his story ended with him finally finding the happiness he had been looking for. But the truth, he didn't. He found moments of joy, yes, laughter with friends, the warmth of love, the quiet contentment of a sunset, but those moments never stayed. At first, he saw that as a failure, until one day he realized something. Those moments weren't meant to stay. They were meant to be lived and then let go. That is when the chase ended. Not because he caught happiness, but because he stopped running after it. You see, the great alternative to the happiness trap is not to reject joy, it is to stop worshiping it, to stop treating it like the prize at the end of a race. Instead, you let it pass through you, just as sadness does, just as longing does, just as every emotion does. Kierkegaard spoke of moving through despair, not away from it. Schopenhauer spoke of peace not as the achievement of constant pleasure, but as the acceptance of life as it is, and every wisdom tradition says the same in its own way. Stop clinging, stop demanding, be here. When you stop demanding happiness, something strange happens. Life becomes richer, not because it is easier, but because it is real. You begin to see sadness not as an enemy, but as a teacher. Anxiety becomes a signal. Loss becomes a doorway to depth. Even despair becomes a mirror, showing you which parts of yourself have been living in someone else's story. The happiness industry doesn't want you to see this, because there's nothing to sell you when you understand that you are not broken, that there is nothing wrong with feeling what you feel. But this truth has always been free. Elias understood it in his final years. He stopped chasing, and he began noticing the warmth of tea in his hands on a cold morning, the sound of rain tapping on the roof, the laughter that came unexpectedly, and the tears that came just as unexpectedly. He allowed them all. And in that permission, something changed. It wasn't happiness, at least not in the way he had been taught to imagine it. It was something quieter, something steadier. It was peace. That is the invitation for all of us, to stop running, to stop seeing emotions as problems to solve or performances to maintain, to stop asking, why am I not happy yet? And start asking, can I be present, even now? When you stop forcing joy, you begin to live truthfully. When you live truthfully, you reconnect with yourself, the whole self, not just the curated parts the world wants to see. And in that honesty, life becomes something far greater than a happiness you can display. It becomes authentic. It becomes alive. So if you've been exhausted by the chase, if you've been blaming yourself for not being joyful enough, hear this. You are not failing. You are human. And to be human is to feel it all. Happiness, sadness, confusion, hope, loss, love. They are all part of the same river. Let it flow, because the moment you stop grasping for constant happiness, you will realize you've been standing in the water all along. And the peace you were searching for was never somewhere far away. It was here, always here, quiet, patient, waiting for you to stop running.